never planned on being a recruiter. I didn't know that was a career path. I obviously knew about HR and corporate infrastructure, but had no idea about talent acquisition. So I come from a long line of salespeople and entrepreneurs. My grandparents were in the restaurant business. So
all right, welcome back, everyone, to the Fisher Search Group Leadership Podcast. I am your host today, Brett Fisher with Fisher Search Group, and I am joined by my friend and colleague, Madisen Brooks. Madisen, welcome to our program today.
Brett, I'm so excited. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Episode 13. You are on lucky number 13, Inside the Mind of an Internal Recruiter, Secrets to Standing Out in the Hiring Process. We've waited 13 episodes to get to this point. I can tell you that people in my community are burning questions about what happens behind the scenes on the internal side. And just to clarify, our group is an external firm. We're usually brought in on select situations to help find people. We don't work with you, but you're an excellent person to have on the show. But you're going to reveal to us like what it's like on the inside, the insider's perspective, the insights we're going to share today. So before we get into strategy, let's just start with you. Just give us a peek behind the scenes. What's going on in your world outside of work? And then how did you get into recruiting?
Okay, awesome. We are in a very fun and a very full season of life right now outside of work. Busy is a good word, I feel like, for where we're at. We have 3 young kids and then 2 full-time working parents. My husband's career is in athletics, so he's a swim coach. If there are any swim families listening, I know they will sympathize with the hat that I wear as a swim coach's wife. You can find me many weekends of the year sweating in a steaming auditorium trying to wrangle 3 kids in the bleachers. And so super fun season of life, very busy. We're doing the balancing act, which I feel like so serves me in recruiting to be a more empathetic recruiter and teammate where I can totally resonate with candidates and hiring managers that are kind of doing it all, maybe super ambitious career-wise, super dedicated to their families and trying to navigate that. So it serves me in a lot of great ways. I never want to forget how busy and full this season is. Brett, I feel like my story isn't unique to me. I never planned on being a recruiter. I didn't know that was a career path. I obviously knew about HR and corporate infrastructure, but had no idea about talent acquisition. So I come from a long line of salespeople and entrepreneurs. My grandparents were in the restaurant business. So I definitely grew up, I feel like, in a family that was very service oriented or very salesy, mover and shaker type personalities. And so I came into the industry as an executive assistant to a CEO of a search firm, a medical device search firm.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And so I did that job for, I'd say 6 to 9 months. And the CEO was a female. She's kind of a legend in our industry, Sally Bales. And she was like, darling, you need to be a recruiter. You need to not be administrative. You need to be on the phones. And so that's how I got my break. And I cut my teeth in agency recruiting. So I was super soft spot in my heart for how that served me throughout my career.
Amazing. So now you've been recruiting for 15 years, which is very similar to me. I got my start in 2010. How did you make the jump from agency over to internal? So just to be clear, our friends on the show, everyone watching, so you're internal with a company called Sarnova and it's a parent company for several other companies. How did you make that jump?
Yep. For me, it was organic. It's kind of a fun story. I was actually prospecting to Sarnova, to our senior VP of HR, and through trying to earn his business, we had a conversation and he shared that they had an opening for a recruiter. So that's how the conversation got started. But what was cool was learning that what they had built at Sarnova, my boss came from an external agency. He owned his own IT recruiting agency. And so at Sarnova, we've really built this little internal team that operates probably a lot like your team. So my transition wasn't so much about leaving the agency world and, going to the dark side of internal recruiting or anything like that. I'm definitely wired as more of a high energy person. So I love the grit and the hustle of the agency world. And so it wasn't really about leaving that. It was kind of more just about broadening my experience level, and getting more kind of breadth and depth to my background. And so I always say, I feel like agency gave me hustle, but in-house gives me a little bit more impact. I'm able to partner with our hiring managers and help drive strategy and best practices in recruitment and all that kind of fun stuff.
That's great. You said something like you weren't looking to get into recruitment, but someone tapped you and was like, "You'd probably be pretty good at." Same thing with me.
Was it?
And I listen to like Resilient Recruiter podcasts, and they
Yeah,
always have a
sure.
lot of great owners on program, and it's always like, "Yeah, I was looking to get into recruiting," and then you did. So awesome to have you. Next
Thank you.
question. So how do you manage? I think you're managing a lot of job requisitions at one time. You said sometimes 15 to 18, sometimes even
Yep.
more. How do you stay connected with candidates with such a high volume?
Yeah. So I know, other internal teams like our company, I feel like we're intentional about that rec load and kind of where it falls in other internal agencies that are internal recruiting teams, I should say, that are larger. I have heard through industry connections that they push more like 30 to 40 recs at a time, which just, I know we've talked about this. It just blows my mind. So our team, I feel like really tries to intentionally keep it leaner so that we can stay engaged with candidates and
Mm-hmm.
really continue to work that hiring manager relationship and that collaboration closely. But I feel like the way that I manage my rec load is probably really similar to a salesperson, right? Like a great
Mm-hmm.
salesperson with a big
Mm-hmm.
book of business, probably has dozens of accounts and a million, gatekeepers and just people through the hospital that they're having to network with. But when they're sitting down with that customer thinks they're the only one. So like Brett, when my hiring managers listen to this, I hope they're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe she manages that much. Like that's always my goal, right? That my candidate or my hiring manager feels like, gosh, I felt like I was the only one. And so that's kind of my goal every day. I'm a big time blocker. So I'm
Mm.
huge on like blocking my time for sourcing or candidate touch points or hiring manager one-to-ones. And
Yep.
I don't know how recruiters do it without that. Same with
Yep.
salespeople. I just think when you've got a little bit of a busy brain naturally, it's really easy to just go into, the fun stuff. And I have to really be intentional to carve out time to make sure I'm doing
Yep.
the administrative stuff or the follow-up stuff too, that maybe doesn't come as naturally to me.
That's great. We do the time blocking as well, and absolutely keeps me on task. And I
Yeah.
reserve certain activities for the afternoon, usually Wednesday through Friday. Sales is always in the morning. I do my prep calls usually mid morning, early afternoon, depending on what time zone. So you got a time block when you're staying on top of so much stuff. So thank you for that quick
Yeah.
overview. For those just joining, we are at episode 13, Inside the Mind of an Internal Recruiter, joined by my colleague Madisen Brooks over at Sarnova. Secrets to standing out in the hiring process. If you like what you hear today, please be sure that you like, subscribe, share, drop us a comment, share this episode with a friend. We just finished our first act, our introduction to Madisen, and now we're going to segue into act 2. We know now who's behind the desk, and let's dig
Yep.
into what actually happens on your side of the screen. So if you don't mind, I did reach out to a couple different partners that I work with who work with candidates, and I was like, hey, I'm interviewing someone. I'm coming up on, today is the 3rd of September.
Yep.
Please give me some of your burning questions. If you don't mind, we're going to do a rapid fire inside the internal recruiter's mind. How does that sound?
Bring it, Brett. Let's go.
Okay. All right. So what's your take on candidates who reach out directly to you versus applying online?
Like on a LinkedIn message or something like that.
Yep. Yep. I mean, maybe they figure out your email address and do it that way, or it could just be a LinkedIn connection request, but they didn't apply. They're just reaching out to you directly, trying to get noticed.
I love it. I think it's the new cover letter. I
Hmm.
think it needs to be personalized. My
Mm-hmm.
preference would be apply online and then ping me so then I can go stalk you after you pinged me. I can look at your resume, but don't do like the copy and pasted. I'm interested in a role or I'm interested in any jobs you have. I think when someone takes the time and the care to set themselves apart, like reference anything, if our mission resonates with you, just mention anything that shows just that little extra bit of due diligence. I'm 100% yes.
Okay, so you're saying apply online first is okay, then follow up with you on LinkedIn and ping you and say, hey, just so you know, I applied online for this job. This is who I am. And then have obviously a creative cover letter through LinkedIn.
Yeah, and like doesn't have to be as long as a cover letter, right? But to be
Right.
like,
Right.
hey, I've called on this call point in the past, or hey, I've got this super resonates with me that I saw on your company website or in the job description. Could we chat? I just think it can make
Mm-hmm.
the difference. I think what used to be the cover letter that made someone stand apart, I think that's the new cover letter.
I love that. So the networking connection on LinkedIn is the new cover letter. I've never heard
I
that. And
think,
that is going to
yeah.
be very valuable to share with our communities. Number two, how do you view candidates with transferable skills who may not have the years of experience? And this could be, we do work with a lot of candidates who are trying to break into medical
Yes.
sales and they have some amazing transferable skills, but they don't quote unquote qualify for that like 3 years of medical sales. Like, what's your take on transferable skills being able to actually get a job?
Yeah. My take is shoot your shot. Like we view
Good.
transferable skills as a positive thing. Obviously, it depends on the role, right? But man, I feel like sometimes folks read through a job description if they see that, minimum of 3 years experience in outside sales or in healthcare sales specifically, they can feel a little bit insecure to reach out or just maybe are frankly tired or weary from applying and not getting a call back. But man, you just never know, where somebody's coming from. When we're building a sales team, we want a diverse
Mm-hmm.
team of diverse backgrounds in our industry, right? We can look at clinical backgrounds, sales backgrounds. We can look at all kinds of different things. And you just never know where that hiring manager is at with where his
Yep.
team is or what he wants to bring in, maybe even strategically. Maybe he or she wants to bring in somebody that's going to come in and kind of just run through walls and is eager and a sponge and wants to learn the business. So shoot your shot.
Shoot your shot, and also it's a case by case basis, so you never know.
Absolutely.
It could be a geography, like a, I call it a tertiary market, like
Definitely.
a Sioux City or Cedar Rapids, somewhere where there's
Ooh,
like less people, and you could have
yep.
a really good shot of making it in on transferable skills, maybe at the associate level, not
Ooh,
necessarily a full quota carrying rep level. Has to be a company large enough that has an associate team, right? Because some don't
yep,
have associates. So, but
totally.
a large company like Sarnova, have you seen entry level candidates successful, or it just depends on the job rec?
I have. And we have like remote sales teams that can be a great way to get your foot in the door into medical sales in general.
Mm.
That like work
Hmm.
from home, like more of an inside sales rep position
Okay,
within a couple of
I
our
love
business
that.
units. Yeah, that can almost be like an incubator for outside sales if that's your desire, right? Also, people kill it on the inside sales team and that is their career path. But
Yep.
so we have those options, but I absolutely have seen reps come in that are super lean and experienced, but bring like that aptitude and that drive that just set them apart. And I also would
Amazing.
say, Timbit, like if you're open to it, I would always let your recruiter know, internal or external, that you're open to relocation. I think sometimes in some of
Mm.
those like historically challenging areas to fill or some areas
Yeah.
of the
Yep.
country, I think teams are willing to go like, hey, if they're willing to bet on us, we're willing to bet on them. Like we'll reload them out there and see, what we can do and we can give them the tools to succeed, obviously. But that's something too that I feel like sometimes people don't think about. It's just
Hmm.
shooting their shot on that side of it, of saying like, hey, I'm also movable.
Yep. So inside sales is a great farming team to get into
Yeah,
outside sales. Do you see people sometimes jump from inside to outside? Is that
we do.
possible?
We do.
Yep. And relocation. So everyone, please remember these as options. Okay, let's jump ahead. Rapid fire. Number three. Do
Okay.
you read every resume, or is AI doing a first pass?
Yeah. On our team right now, we are still reading every resume. So I get candidate feedback a lot that's like, oh, you never know. A robot's reading this and it's just searching keywords. We're not doing that. And I chat with colleagues from other teams and I'm not hearing that a ton yet. I think obviously nationally the use of AI and AI in recruitment is growing rapidly. And I think it will help us someday maybe to like screen resumes or like evaluate fit. But I don't know. I think right now we're in that phase of kind of watching what's happening and what's the most successful. I think it's important for candidates to remember like it would do a recruiting team or an internal HR team no benefit to have an AI tool that is weeding out potentially viable candidates. So I just think we could like disarm some of the fear around that because
Yeah.
the tools that
Yep.
would be out there would be digging so deep for any possible connection. Like
Mm,
no one would want to be discarding qualified
mm.
people.
Right. Right. Oh, that's good. I think that demystified a major
Yeah,
concern about where AI is headed and maybe
sure.
putting people at a disadvantage. So we're mostly like outbound traditional headhunting. So we're not
Yeah.
reviewing resumes, but we're tapping people on the shoulder. Hey, is the timing right to consider something? But for you, are you doing both? Like, what percentage of the time are you reviewing internal applicants versus outbound headhunting?
Yep. I would say, like, if I had to do a percentage, I would say like a 70-30 split, probably 70%. Like, we call that proactive sourcing, right? But I love the way you describe that, where we're doing that tap on the shoulder. We're leaning
Mm-hmm.
into our tools. We're reaching out to folks that might be super passive or not looking at all
Yep.
and being like, hey, would you ever consider our organization? But then we
That's
also
good to know.
totally post our roles, right? And they feed out to job boards and we get resumes in as well. And we
Mm-hmm.
kind of have that marriage of both coming in at the same time.
Okay, great. That was a quick little sneak question I had to ask. I was
Yeah,
just curious.
no
Number
worries.
four, number four, what do you notice first when you open up a resume? Like, where do your eyes go and how long do you spend on that resume?
Yep. So my eyes go to last, like I would say the two most recent jobs. I kind of just skim
Yep.
two most recent jobs. And if it starts to resonate, I feel like I'm old school in this way, Brett. I feel like it'll age me, but I'm like a reverse chronological order gal. I go
Mm.
to the bottom of the
Mm-hmm.
resume. I'm
Mm-hmm.
reviewing it reverse chronological to really get like, I love seeing like someone's career trajectory, right? Where I can see where
Yep.
they started out and have moved up through the ranks or have, made pivots through their career. So that's how I review them.
It's interesting. So when I open it up, I'm looking at the current job title to see
Yep.
if it's relevant to the role we're hiring for. Because if it's like a VP and we're hiring for a director or
Sure.
a manager, it's like, is there relevance there? And then,
Yep.
yes, then definitely want to see the progression. And I like that in terms of like, what's the story here? What have you
Yep.
done? What about movement, job hopping, stability? I want people to hear this. What is
Yeah.
your take on stability and movement on a resume? And what I mean by that is the time someone spends at a company before they make a change.
Yeah. I think it's a hot topic in our industry. And I used to hear that phrase job hopper a lot more than I do now. And I think that's a beautiful thing because as we all know and I feel like a lot of your listeners are probably in the industry or wanting to get into the industry, right? A lot of times, or some of the time, I guess I should say, that decision is not within the person's control, right? We are an industry where there
That's
are a
true.
ton of acquisitions and changes that happen all the time. So I would really encourage hiring managers or recruiters listening to be willing to hear people out. If
Mm-hmm.
you're a candidate and you've got some hops, I would encourage you to put a little dash and put, company acquired by XYZ. My role was impacted. I don't think it's a negative thing to kind of call that out if you feel a certain way about that or fear the way that that looks. But I feel like that conversation has dwindled a lot over the last couple
Mm-hmm.
years, and I'm grateful for that.
Yeah, we're definitely seeing more stability now versus a couple years ago. There was a lot of movement, especially
Yes.
during that pandemic period.
Totally.
So on the resume, I'm just going to keep rapid fire on the
Let's
resume.
go.
Does it you have a preference on one page versus two? Does one look clean and concise? Two more than two? What's your take on length?
Yeah, I would say the argument of one page versus two page, I don't even know if I have an opinion. I have an opinion more on like 3 page, 4 page, 5 page, where it just gets a little excessive. I think
Mm.
beautiful thing with technology is right when we're sending this to one of our hiring
Hmm.
managers, they're likely scrolling it on their phone, right? They're flying, they're traveling, especially in sales.
Oh yeah.
So the page break doesn't necessarily matter as much as it used to when we're talking about bleeding into a second page. But I do think impact is better than volume. I think that like if we're talking about sales resumes specifically, if you're
Hmm.
a medical sales rep under every one of your jobs, I should be able to look and see who do you work for, what geography, who are your call points, and then how good you are, like your performance metrics, I think your rankings,
Hmm.
awards. And I think
Hmm.
candidates could find rest in the fact that a great interviewer is going to be able to and is going to want to pull back all the onion layers with you on all the amazing things
Hmm.
you've done. But bare bones of it, we've got to be able to see that information as sales recruiters. So I would just say, keep it impactful, keep it factual so we can just bullet point read through that and see what you're doing and
I
where
love
you've
it.
been and where you want to go.
I love it. You brought up something I didn't even consider, and that is your hiring managers are looking at these on their phones and they're
Yeah.
usually traveling on planes. So we're thinking like, on desktop,
Yeah.
big screens and things like that. Is there anything a candidate can do to make it easier for you and the hiring manager on the resume? Or I don't know if they still do a cover letter versus the networking introduction we just talked about earlier. Given that they're looking on their phones and it's really small and they're traveling and moving quickly, is there like a one pager, like a marketing piece? Is there anything have you seen candidates do anything to stand out and overcome that point that you just made, or it's just continue doing as what you're doing, and we'll figure out a way to communicate this best to the hiring managers?
That's such a great question, Brett. And it's like, I have seen the one pagers, and typically the response from the hiring manager is like, awesome, looks great, get me his resume. So I think there is still like a habit there or a preference there that, we want to see the resume. I think just encouraging folks to have clear formatting, easy to read, and maybe just send it to yourself and open it on your cell phone and put
Oh,
yourself in their shoes.
that's a great
Is
point.
that too bare bones of advice? But that's what I would do.
That's perfect. Yeah, send it to yourself and see if you can understand it. That's just
Yep.
very logical. Great, 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 great. That's very helpful. I want to look at our time. We are about
Okay.
20 minutes in, and I do want to jump into the next act is
Okay.
partnering with agencies, which I think we can spend a very short period of time on. And then act 4 at the very end is candidate communication and dispositioning. You've heard of being ghosted and
Yeah.
communicating that you did or did not get the role. So once again, if you like what you've heard, Madisen, you've been awesome so far.
Oh,
Peeling
thanks,
back the
Brett.
curtain, we are in episode 13 with my friend and colleague Madisen Brooks from Sarnova. Inside the mind of an internal recruiter, secrets to standing out in the hiring process. So real quick, I'm sure it comes up from time to time. When is it like, hey, we need to get an agency on board? Do you ever get to the point where you're overflowing or
Yeah.
overwhelmed? And what's that partnership look like?
Yeah. That decision for us, it's not reactive. It is not this last ditch effort that I'm like, Brett, I have combed through every possible resume in Columbus, Ohio, and I can't find a single person. So now you try. That is not really our MO when it
Yep.
comes to onboarding a strategic partner with
Good.
an agency. So when we bring on an agency, it is someone that we're bringing on as like a positive extension of our team. So I think
Mm.
Sarnova differs in that way in some ways, right? Like we see the value of that partnership sometimes. And I know, Brett, you and I have talked about this offline in some of our one-to-ones where there can be a little bit of an us versus them mentality in internal recruiting teams and external recruiting teams. And I think sometimes even when an internal team onboards an agency, it's almost like this mindset of like, well, let's just see what they can throw at the wall and what could stick, right? We've done everything we can. Let's just pitch it to them and have that be our last ditch effort. And
Mm.
we just don't see it that way. And I wonder if it's not because our
Oh,
director of talent
good.
acquisition came from the agency world
Right.
that he knows the value, right, in that collaborative, committed relationship between an agency and our team. It just
Mm-hmm.
makes such a better candidate experience. It makes such a better hiring manager experience when we're partnering with an agency. And so I feel like we do things a
Mm.
little bit different, yeah, in that regard.
So it sounds very deliberate, it's
Yes.
strategic, and you know it's coming. Like if it's a scale up or an
Yes.
expansion or a
Yeah.
new division, it's not going to be we've worked on this rec for 30 or 60 days and we're frustrated and we're challenged, because it sounds like if you're doing 70% outbound, 30% inbound,
Yeah.
you're already reaching out to the majority of the market. So what more would an agency do in this situation? It sounds like when it's
Right.
just like we just need some extra bandwidth.
You got it. And it's my favorite way to work with an external partner, right? Where we also have other considerations, being a distributor and owning multiple business units at Sarnova, or being a family of companies, maybe better stated, where, right, you and I would need to talk through non-solicitation agreements and other factors like
Mm-hmm.
that
Mm-hmm.
would
Mm-hmm.
impact your search that you need to know. I would
Yes.
never hand you a
Yes.
search and you reach out to 5 people and they're like, yeah, I've already heard from her. They passed on me.
Right.
Thank you for the salt in the wound on that, Brett. We wouldn't set you up that way. We, like you said,
Right.
that deliberate strategic partnership is what we're all about.
That's amazing, because whenever
Yeah.
we're partnering, it's just very delicate, because we're working
Yes.
on usually on the same job. We're competing against candidates that they have interviewing at the same time in the process.
Yeah.
So it's delicate. It's delicate, and we
Yeah.
want to be as supportive and helpful as possible to obviously get you the best possible talent for the
I love
opportunity.
that. Sure.
So good. Let's just jump into the fourth act. So, whether
Okay.
a candidate comes from you or it comes from us, one of the things I admire most about you, Madisen, is your way of handling communication with candidates, especially when the answer is no. So, let's dive into that. Let's be real.
Let's be
Most
real.
candidates let's be real, most candidates, they dread the silence after the interview, but you take a completely different approach. So just give us a window into your world of how you're communicating with candidates during the interview process, and then ultimately the disposition if it goes in that direction.
Yeah. And I feel like we have the best job in the world. Like, I don't take the weight of what we do lightly. Like, someone changing jobs, that's a big deal. A company making that commitment level and taking that risk of hiring someone, it's a big deal. Like, all of this matters. And so
Yes.
I think part of it, Brett, is being rooted in just like, I feel the weight of our role and the importance of what we do. And I hope that doesn't come off as too cheesy, but I really do just feel passionately on that side, that for everybody involved, it's a big deal to change jobs. And I think
Yep.
handling it with the care and the authenticity that it deserves is super important. So we have the best job in the world, but disengaging candidates is the worst part, right? It's awful. You
Worst
build a
part.
relationship with somebody, and in
Yep.
most cases, only one person is getting the job. And
Yep.
so I tend to send a rejection email, and I say that wanting to, I guess, with the caveat of I feel like that could be perceived as like a cop out, right? Like, what? She builds this beautiful relationship and then she shoots a rejection email. But the rejection email for me is not like the end of the road. It is not an automated, like, sorry, Brett, didn't work out this time. Let's stay in touch. It is definitely a
Mm-hmm.
bridge. It's a bridge to another conversation. I look at it as like
Interesting.
this little moment of respect and pause that I can give to somebody where they're getting, clear information, they're getting the
Yep.
update that they're not moving forward. And it's hard, right? It's not fun, it's emotional. You can feel defensive and frustrated in that moment. And I find just giving people a second to process is something
Mm.
that I think really resonates with our mission and vision and guiding principles at Sarnova, where, right, I want to make sure that we're positioning ourselves as an employer who leads with empathy and who leads with professionalism, right? The news needs to be delivered. We're not going to cop out on that, but I am going to give you a minute to acknowledge it in private, not put you on the spot for a reaction. And so that's what I do.
Yeah, that's like one of the first times I've ever heard that, which is so amazing, and that you're delivering the communication with the goal of allowing them to process it privately, and then you're inviting them to call just to talk about it and to
Yes.
get some feedback about maybe where there was some gaps. Is
Yeah.
that what you're saying?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah, I
Yeah.
love that. So it's part of the mission to be able to allow them to just process. It's the empathy, it's the take a
Yeah.
moment, as opposed to just being on the spot. Unfortunately, they went in a different direction. Unfortunately, there was a candidate, or however you deliver it. It's hard.
Yeah.
Like you said, we do build relationships with these candidates, and a lot of times they're candidates we've known for years.
Yeah.
And finally, here's an opportunity which they went out for, and they weren't the one. Very hard. I will echo exactly what you say in that we have like the best job in the world. We can open a door and give someone a better life. We also have the most
Yeah.
difficult job at the end when one of them or two or three don't get the opportunity, and we have to disengage, as you say.
Yeah.
I always like to provide some like positivity around that,
Yeah.
as maybe this one wasn't meant to be. Maybe there's one that's better out there. Maybe we're avoiding something. Maybe 6 months down the road there would have been something that wouldn't have been good. And I always feel that the hiring manager who's making that decision has your best interest in mind. And if you're not selected, it's because maybe they know something that you don't know, and they're helping you maybe
Exactly.
avoid something that would be uncomfortable. And if you're the chosen one, it's because you absolutely deserve to be there, and they believe you would absolutely kill it in that role, and you'll be set up for success. So
Yeah.
by disengaging, we don't feel you would have been set up for success, and we only want you to be in that role if it's going to be successful. So framing it like that is hopefully a
Totally.
soft landing for people.
Yes.
Never easy.
It's not easy. I would say in things I firmly believe, and again, I hope it doesn't come off too woo-woo or like trying to be sunshine and rainbows in a hard moment.
Mm-hmm.
But I think things happen, for us, not to us. And man, the last thing you
Mm,
want to do is
mm.
accept the wrong job. I don't know if you've ever been in that situation, but I've sure talked to candidates that are like, I accepted a job and I was there 2 months and thought, oh no, this wasn't the right fit. I got it and thought I won, but it's not the right fit. So I always try to drive that home too. When the timing is right, I try not to be, I make my boss laugh because I say I'm toxically positive sometimes, but I try not to be toxically
You're so
positive.
positive.
I try to give them a beat to process, but then be able to share that, like, listen, if it's not right, gosh, what a gift to have that door close and then be able to put your energy and focus into what's next. And maybe it's us,
Yes.
but it's just us a year from now, right? It doesn't have to be the end. Like you said, this is like a relationship building business where I
Hmm.
hope our paths cross again and again, like until your
Hmm.
retirement party, right? So I think that's a
Oh
cool
my
thing too.
gosh, totally. Yeah, I tell candidates we're in the long-term relationship business. That's the business
Yes.
we're in.
Yes.
And there's people, candidates and clients who I met 10 years ago who, we work on stuff and then we don't for a while. And now they reach out and it's like, oh, that's cool. That's cool that they
It's
remembered
so
us.
cool.
And so, one of my last questions is how are you staying in touch with these people who you are disengaging with? Like, do you nurture them? Do you consider them for other opportunities, maybe, 3 months, 6 months down the road? Do you have a process by which you nurture relationships with candidates at Sarnova?
I love candidate nurturing. And I
Mm-hmm.
feel like it happens organically in some ways. Like, I literally last month got an email from a guy that I had in process for one of our roles over a year ago. And
Mm-hmm.
right, he's not one of my teammates, so it obviously didn't work out. But he sent me an email to say, like, hey, you reached out to my buddy on LinkedIn. And I just want to tell you, like, I remembered our chat last year. Hate it didn't work out. Like, keep me in mind, one, but more so, my buddy is such a great guy. I hope your call goes well. And it's like, it's moments like that where, the person that didn't get the job with us a year ago was still willing to be a promoter of our team and of our company and remember
Wow.
that experience fondly. And for me, that is like, that's what it's all for. So
Right.
I don't
Right.
have a specific tool that I'm nurturing candidates. I'm always, when I've got something in their area, hitting them up,
Mm-hmm.
or we stay in touch through LinkedIn. I'm so thankful for LinkedIn
Mm-hmm.
and how we're able to like communicate that way, just even through simple things like liking or supporting something that they're putting up or cheering them on when they've got a work anniversary.
Mm-hmm. Amazing. I love it. I love it. So we are just about done here.
Yay.
And can you believe it's flown by so quickly? And we
It's
spent
fun.
months planning, and 33 minutes later, we have so many wonderful gems, sound bites that you have shared with our respective candidate communities. I'm very grateful, Madisen. If all of you out there have enjoyed, please like this, please subscribe, please share it, please comment. Any last words you'd like to share before we sign off? How can people get in touch with you? How can people follow up with you? We'd love to stay connected with you.
Oh my gosh, Brett. Yeah, well, first, just what an opportunity. I can't thank you enough for letting me come on today. And I love that we're building this bridge from both sides of the talent
Yeah.
acquisition, world. And so I just think it was such a beautiful thing for you to invite me on and get to talk shop together. It was so
Yeah.
fun. My
Good,
name is
good, good.
Madisen Brooks, and I don't know if we can link my LinkedIn or something, but you're more than welcome to add me
Yep.
on LinkedIn, or we could put like my contact info, like my Sarnova
Yep.
email. But check
Perfect.
out our job board. We've got a lot of exciting opportunities at Sarnova.
Yes. Excellent. Well, thank you, everyone. Thank you from the Fisher Search Group community. We are grateful to have had you on the program, sharing your pearls of wisdom, and I hope we can maybe have you back sometime in the future. We can do a follow-up series, but for now, thank you, thank you, thank you, and have a great career. So to your
Thanks,
success. See
Brett.
you later.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Bye.
Bye.